Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Ed. It's Organizing for Change, and wanted to say that this is going to be our unboxing and very first impressions of the Books Go 10.3 Lumi. So I want to thank Books, first of all, for providing this device for review. They have asked me to do nothing special with it, absolutely no restrictions on the content. They get no pre-approval of anything that I'm going to do with this device, but I'm really excited to get this device opened and take a look at it. There've been a lot of really exciting things happening in the space. People going out and getting this device and buying it and then just starting to talk about it on YouTube. So for those of us who have been talking about these products for quite a while, and are used to being some of the first ones out with that information, this is really a refreshing thing. A little frustrating, I'll admit. I kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there as quickly as I could. But at the same time, it's allowed me to watch and it's allowed me to understand just some real enthusiasm from people that are buying this device like I did my A5X Supernote almost 5 years ago now. That initial anticipation and getting the device, cracking it open, just looking at it and being excited. And I'm going to link a bunch of those reviews down in the comments. Javier, David at Tablet Tech, and I know David's a reviewer, but he also is definitely an enthusiast, and he bought this and got his hands on it early. And I'm going to just find as many of those as I can and link them down below so you all can see them. But that's got me thinking this entire time as I'm watching them with these really raw first reactions. What am I going to say? What am I going to bring to this? And in the unboxing video, frankly, I'm going to bring, kind of my thoughts, and I'm going to look at the pen. I'm going to look at the pen tech. I'm going to look at the notes experience because those are the things in the unboxing I think are the most important. But I'm not going to update it. I'm not going to do any settings changes. I'm not going to do any of that because other than logging into my account to get a few things in, I'm going to wait and save that for a later review. This is all about if you were buying this tablet for the first time you've ever gotten your hands on it, what would your experience be out of the box? What are the things you have to do to set it up and just start writing? So that's our focus. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop over, take a look at the device, and then we'll do a conclusion at the end. And I'll probably have some thoughts there to where I've been using it a little bit longer just to kind of prime the pump for our next big conversation, which is going to be digging deep into what's different about this device and what's the same. And we'll probably put it head to head with the Go 10.3 first generation. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump over. I will see you in a minute. All right, everybody. So here we are with the Go 10.3 Lumi. So again, it's Gen 2, but I'm just going to go with the 10.3 Lumi throughout this video, or maybe even call it the Lumi. I know that Books had the Max Lumi at one point, and that was a very popular device for them. And I think that's some of the nostalgia that they're trying to capitalize on for this specific launch. This device and the cover and all of the accessories were sent to me by Books, and I want to acknowledge that and thank them so much for supporting the channel in that way and sending me these devices to take a look at. But as always with my content, they have no control, no editorial control, nothing like that when it comes to my content. They don't see any of it in advance. They are not giving any approvals. And they are not in the know before any of you all see this. They see all of it the same time you do, and there are no preconditions on what I am allowed to say or what I am going to talk about regarding the product. Other than sending me information and sharing information with me about the product, these thoughts are all my own. So just so that's clear and out there and everybody can be on the same page, but still very excited about this. A lot of the people who've gotten this in their hands just couldn't wait to talk about it. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do this unboxing. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm not always the greatest with unboxings. So here's the device itself. Here's the cover. And then I did get some ink sense plus stylus tips just to replace, because remember, this is an active pen, so you're going to need that. Now, what I want to do first is let's take a look at the cover. I know all of you are dying to see the device, and I'll link some other reviews to this down in the description. But I want to start with the cover and just see how they may have changed that. So we'll go ahead and pull this out. And as you can see, it's a little bit different. The Note Air 5C cover is a little bit darker than this one and has some more texture to it. This one almost feels kind of like a suede. I know it's probably not real leather, but it kind of gives you that suede feeling to it. And of course, they've made what I and many other reviewers have come to see as one of their biggest, I don't want to say mistake because I know they had good intentions, but something I don't find very functional. So those of you who love this strap, I'm happy that you do. I just really don't have a great use for it. So I'll set that to the side for now. But the actual case itself, very nice. It's got a smooth interior here. Very different from the outside. The outside feels like suede. This almost feels like plastic, like a real smooth, kind of soft plastic, but still plastic. So not mad with the cover. I think it's decent. I like that it's lighter because I think that'll give it a good look. I do kind of like the other one that's on my other Go 10.3, and I know they are interchangeable. So if you already have a Go 10.3 and you want to use your old case, you can absolutely do that. So right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the device itself. So we'll go ahead and we'll open this up here. Let's get the plastic off. Not a huge fan of plastic. I wish they could find another way to do this. But once you get the plastic off, they do a very good job with packaging. The book's unboxing experience is always good. I mean, they never really have an issue when it comes to the way their devices look. And you can see here it says books make a difference, and you've got the Go series, and then we will go ahead and slide this out. And then on the outside, pretty simple, just says books. And then on the back of the outer cover that I had, it said it was the Lumi. I did double check that before I started recording, just because I thought they might send me the regular one, but I think they're kind of wanting to get some really different opinions, and I'm not one who overemphasizes front lights, but I enjoy them on the devices I have them on. And this will be an interesting one to see. So here you can see they've got the screensaver. It says Gen 2 Lumi. They've got the packaging. They, again, always do a really good job of using this kind of wax paper. And I do, just like my friend David over at Tablet Tech, always have trouble not tearing this. But I always try not to, because all of my devices, I keep them as pristine as possible. So whenever I send back a cell phone, whenever I send back a tablet, they always have all of their original packaging. That's something that I always like to do, just for a lot of reasons, but primarily because, if you're trading something in, you're trying to get the best price possible. But also, if you're selling it, you want someone to have the best experience that they can if they unbox it, almost feeling like new. So we'll sit the device over here to the side for a moment, and we'll go ahead and do the rest of the unboxing. You've got some information there. In here, I'm assuming, is our USB-C and our new stylus. Yep, that's all of that. So we'll go ahead and pull the stylus out. Now, I know what to expect from this stylus for the most part. Not exactly, because I also have my stylus, which they're both InkSense plus styli. The difference is that this one has more of a pencil type look to it as far as the cone here. And it's a little bit lighter. You'll see the buttons are a little bit lighter there, but it's still a charged USB capacitive stylus. And it does feel like it's got the exact same tip. So I think we'll have a very unique experience when we do that. Now, I have heard that this comes uncharged. So while we're filming here, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and let it charge over here to the side while we're still doing all of that. Here you've got your USB A to C. I know some people get really bent out of shape over still doing A to C, but I still happen to have a lot of A ports, and so I appreciate it. As I've said before, I think the best solution would be to have an adapter also bundled in with this, A to C, that you could slide on. That way you could have either A to C total or a C to C experience. But so far, no companies have taken me up on that, other than a few charging banks. All right, so let's get in here to the main attraction. So this is what everyone is wanting to see. And this is the Go 10.3 uh, Gen 2 Lumi. Now, I will say this looks very, very familiar. If you are a 10.3 user, you're not going to notice hardly any difference between this device and the other device. Even from a spec perspective, there's a small bump in the CPU, there's a small bump in basically the SoC, the system on chip, and then you're going to get a Carta 1200 screen instead of a Carta HD screen, which is a little confusing to me because the old model also had 300 PPI the same as this one did, and I had thought that the HD screens were the 227, but I must have been wrong about that. So if you know, let me know down in the comments. But in the official documentation from books, they are saying that this is a Carta 1200 screen, and it's different from the screen on the original Go 10.3. But you'll see it's machined very well. You can just barely feel where this little back piece is attached, but it's not off-putting at all. And I know some folks don't like this array, or I guess it's an antenna array, or it's supposed to mimic, some think a bookmark or a book ribbon. I like it, always have. I think that really, if you look at design, this is an excellently designed device and just really good. So, and there is a difference with that texture on the back. It is much more stable. You can't just push it without pushing pretty hard on it. You still have the USB-C port on the bottom. You also have your speaker grills, and it looks like two microphones, and then you have a microphone up here, and of course you have your power button. So let's go ahead and power it up. We'll see what is going on with it, and we'll get into the experience. Now, what I'm not going to do right now, because this is just a first impressions and unboxing, is I'm not going to dive deep into this. I probably won't even update it during this particular video because I just want to show the experience out of the box. I will do more comparisons where I update it. I know that the 4.2 has also been added to this device, and I'll make sure that I get that updated and get it all taken care of and do some comparisons between it and the Go 10.3 original and get that out to you later. But one thing I want to do is focus on what this device is straight out of the box. So usually I'll set this for about 15 to 30 minutes as far as auto sleep. And then I always set it for 8 hours to turn off, to auto power off, because if I haven't used it in 8 hours, I'm probably not going to be using it that day. I don't use the navigation bar. I use the gestures. So I pretty much try to leave these how they are. And then occasionally I'll go in and I'll change them up a little here and there. Usually I'll change the volume slider because I don't use a lot of volume controls. And then you can see here, that's your back, and over here you can do your brightness. And then we'll go ahead and go through that. Make sure your pin's charged. So hopefully it's got enough charge from me plugging it in. It says magnetically attach it, just to make sure that it magnetically attaches, which it did. Make sure that it's ready to go. So we'll go ahead and write with that. Pin is active, full charge. We'll go ahead and let that start up. What was interesting is it gave you, do you have a pin? And I'm assuming that's like a global setting for whether or not you have the Go 7, whether you use that with a pin or without a pin, or maybe one of the smaller Go devices the Go 6. And that's just a guess, completely a guess. Let's go ahead, and I am going to go ahead and sign into my account. All right, so you'll see now we are all the way back logged in. So we'll go back to our library here. It's saying enable automatic reading data synchronization. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, remember, on these devices with books, and I won't go into any detail on this does not mean I have all of those source documents on this device already. It's just syncing the reading data. So think of a Kindle, think of a Kobo. That's what that's doing right now. And it's automatically updating and refreshing. So apologize for the flashing there. Let's go ahead and pop out of that. Then, of course, you have your books store, which I absolutely love the bookstore. It's basically having a mini version of Project Gutenberg on your device. And I think that's really handy. But let's do kind of the big things here. So it's saying enable notes data synchronization across devices. Absolutely, I want to enable that. And you'll notice there is some ghosting. I haven't tweaked any of the settings yet. This is just straight out of the box what you're going to have when you first boot up this device. Now, I'm pretty sure they've got some settings that are going to deal with that. It's probably going to tell me here that I have an update, but again, and you'll see my power isn't 100%. I'm not going to go through now and do the update process. We'll do that in a later video. But what I do want to do is look at the notes experience, because I know that's what a lot of people are asking for in this device. One of the big concerns was this pen, this idea of an active stylus on a device like this that was meant for long note-taking sessions. One other thing I do want to show before I do that is this slight gap. Now, that doesn't really bother me. As far as some people really get bothered by the gap. I don't love it. It's not my favorite thing, but you don't feel it. I think if it was an actual indention in the screen, then I would have more problem with it, but you do not feel it. Let me go ahead and put it on pause for a minute here. You do not feel it when you rub your hand across the screen. It's just not, it's not even there as far as I can tell. So it doesn't really bother me. The drop shadow is not a huge deal for me. I made more of a deal about it on the MobiScribe Wave because that screen actually divots down. But something like this, I don't think it's a game changer. Now, one thing I will say about this is that everybody's been talking about kind of a screen texture on this, a film almost. And I don't know if I'm just not, I see it, but it's very, very slight. So we'll have to see as we go through the testing what that's like, as far as whether it's something just like the original Go 10.3, which also had kind of a writable surface covering, but it was very slight. To me, it reminded me not quite of the original version of the Feel Right film, but something similar to that. So it is a screen protection of some kind, but it wasn't overly rough or gritty, if that makes any sense, because that's why your tip has to be a little bit more of either almost a palm or a composite or a felt type to make that connection. But anyway, I'll digress from all that. I want to go ahead and we're going to go in and create a new test note. And we'll do this just in a handwritten note. And then, of course, when it pops up, I can say create. We'll rename this one. And I still maintain that the handwriting keyboard entry on books, by far the absolute best in class. Gives you just the right amount of tools over here, just the right amount of tools up here, and the recognition for titling is phenomenal. So we will put books 10.3 Lumi, and it didn't get books, which you would think it would be able to do since it's their company. But we'll try that again. OOX. There we go. Books 10.3 Lumi, say create, and now we're on a blank page. And the reason I did the blank page was just to show the screen off a little bit more than I normally would. And we'll go ahead and see if we can turn on any of our AI shapes. So I'll say got it. I'll turn that on. So this did work for me. I know David at Tablet Tech had an issue. Well, this is actually the lasso recognition, and scribble to erase. So David over at Tablet Tech had trouble getting that to start. Mine worked right out of the gate, so we should be good to go on that. And of course, you have all of your different toolbars and settings for books, but we're not doing any of that today. I know a lot of you are probably saying, come on, let's dig into this. Let's get into the organizational tools. And that's what my channel's mainly about. But I really want to give this kind of its full credit as an unboxing and an experience and what you should expect without playing with any of the other things. So let's go ahead and turn this. And I'm going to do a little bit of quick writing just to test it out. Now, I will say it does write much better than I thought. So what I said there is really good. It did miss that S a little bit, but this for a capacitive stylus, and I'm going to say that I agree with everyone else who has mentioned this. This may be one of the best capacitive implementations I've ever seen on initial contact, primarily because the accuracy and the latency just feels really good. Let's try and got it. Let's try and go to a different pen. The one that I really like is the calligraphy pen. So we'll go to the calligraphy pen and we will take that up to 0.75 or zero point 0.7. And then let's just see how this writes. It writes very well. I mean, I will say that, a lot of this is my issue, not the stylus or the pen's issue. And I do love the feel of this nib on this screen. I think that Books has really nailed the combination between the two. And I think that they're paying attention. And whether or not it's 100% there or not yet, I don't know, but I would say you would not be disappointed with this. Now, the caveat to that is always going to be if you are an artist and you're drawing and you need super crisp, super accurate straight lines. I'm really waiting to see when those folks get it in their hands, what their experience is. For me, for note taking, this so far seems absolutely fine. I am going to go ahead and try the straight line test here just for fun. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with our diagonal lines and we'll move real slow. And what you can see there is wobble, but it's much better than I have seen on other devices. And as I've been told and seen from a lot of folks, the faster you go, the less noticeable it is. And that's just par for the course. I think that's kind of the test, because a lot of times when you're doing a line for drawing, you're wanting to draw really slow, really deliberate. And I know that from taking this course. And you want that fine motor control. And you can see there that those lines, the faster you get, the more accurate they are. I'm not noticing any latency problems whatsoever. So I think that is really cool. See if I can get my ease. I do see just a little bit of issue with the ease, but not much. I mean, really, I've got to get really small. So you'll see as I get really small, the loop gets lost. And trust me, I'm putting it there, but it has to be really, really small. Same with L's. The L's are very crisp. The Y, that's where you can usually tell it on mine is when I do a Y, and you can see a little bit there. But here, where I was writing naturally out of the gate, it was much easier to see. So if I was to write, hello, this is a lot of, that's all me. See if Scribble Erase is picking up. It is. Fun. Yeah, I think the accuracy is great on this. I really do. So I was always a holdout, and I do still want to put that caveat out there only for the people who I know who are artists. This isn't a dedicated drawing app. It's going to need some other things. Scientific writers, I want to make sure that they get a look at this. So someone like Kit Betts Masters, how does this look? And I can't write scientific writing, but if you're doing like those superscripts and subscripts. And, is that going to cause a problem when you're getting into writing characters that small, or when you're doing graphing. How accurate is the line? When you're doing note taking, for the most part, that isn't as important. I mean, it is for me. I want to be able to see that when I write, when I say, this is important, I want to feel connected to that writing. I don't want to have this problem to where there's a delay or there's a lag, or it feels like I'm writing something into a computer. I know that's what's happening here, but that's not I want it to feel like I'm writing on a pad of paper. This still isn't paper. Don't get me wrong. It does have a much scratchier feel, but in a good way. It also has a very nice, so it's got a nice scratchy sound, but it also has a very pleasant resistance level without having to do what the Inkspire pen on the Tab XC does with that haptic engine. Primarily, I think that's the combination of this screen and this pen. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to try the old InkSense Plus pen, or I shouldn't say old, they're the same pen. The only difference is this one looks different, but let's see. Now, I am noticing a difference there. So it's not bad, but I can tell a definite difference when I write with this one and when I write with this one. So they'll both work and they're both fairly accurate. This one also feels heavier. I don't know if it's because of kind of this composite tip here, but they look like the same general composite material. But this one actually feels heavier in the hand than the new one that comes with this device. Just some early thoughts. Again, I'm going to get this thing updated. I'm going to run it through its paces. I'm going to try taking some actual notes on it, doing some annotations. I'm going to try out all the functionality. I know this one now has 4.2 on it, so I'm going to go ahead and download that and get it on here. One last thing before I head out, I do want to go ahead and put it in the case so you can see the full package here. So they still have the books logo here. We will go ahead and we will slide this in, and it fits just like a glove. So I really like the packaging. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. I do want to look at the front light, which I know David just did a video over on Tablet Tech that with the update, they fixed kind of some of this layout problem so you don't have to slide up like I just did. And then I do want to look at the front light. So we'll go ahead and turn that all the way up. And that's your full code lighting. And I do want to take it all the way down. It looked like it was on a little bit by default. I think that might be something Books does with all of their devices just because they have both front lit and non-front lit devices. And so if there's a light, it automatically does it. But there's your full brightness. Yeah, that's what I saw a lot of reviewers talk about. And David, this actually I think would be great for me. I hope it doesn't get too amber. I kind of like, if I'm going to have a front light on, I like to have it to be kind of like that. So almost as white as I can make it with just a little tinge of that orange, but not all the way blown out. And you'll see when I turn it way up, it blows out the screen. But that right there is a pretty decent. I could easily use that and probably far below that, even in a dark room, to be able to read this comfortably. Absolutely. Just a phenomenal device. Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump back over. I'll give my final thoughts on this and we will call this one a wrap. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging in there with me through this video. It was a fun one to do, and it's a little bit different than the ones I've done in the past. And a lot of my unboxings, I go a little bit deeper into the actual device, but quite frankly, we have seen this device before. Yes, there are some meaningful upgrades. Yes, there are some things that have changed. The active stylus, I am very positive towards for what an active stylus is. I'm very encouraged by the direction Book seems to be going with this. I still believe EMR is a better technology. You have more pen choice. The pens tend to be very much standardized across. But having said that, from a pure note-taking perspective, I've now spent about 4 or 5 hours with this device since I got it earlier today as of this filming, and I've really enjoyed writing with it. Now, I'm not the person who's going to be an artist on it, so I can't speak to a lot of the line wobble. I show a little bit of that, and I've been experimenting quite a bit with it, and there is a noticeable difference between the line accuracy and quality on the Go 10.3 Gen 1 and on this. Now, that does not mean that you're going to necessarily feel that. I've noticed my writing a little bit different, but not bad in any way. As a matter of fact, compared to some of the active pens that I've used, this is ridiculously good. And even if you look at something like the Pocketbook or some of the other Wacom tablets that I've used, this is better than that. Now, again, that has to do with the overall device. And I think that that's what Books is really kind of leveraging their software and how it deals with the active stylus. And in my opinion, they're doing what they need to do. Now, whether or not this is because they're just trying to keep the cost low or something like that, that might be why they've removed that Wacom layer. I don't know for sure. But as far as the responsiveness of this device, the look of this device, I don't mind that little bit of screen gap you get as long as you don't feel it because of the front light. I mean, you can see it. It's a shadow. It's there, but it doesn't bother me. And I can tell you by working with this, I was downstairs. We were watching some TV. I was playing around with it while we were watching TV, and the front light was very useful and not overpowering, and I could keep it really low, and it allowed me to still jot a few notes because we prefer to watch TV in the dark, like I think a lot of us do, especially when we're watching something and really want to focus on it and keep any kind of glare off the TV. But I'm very encouraged by this device. I do hope in the future that Books doesn't completely abandon EMR technology, but at the same time, if they are going to move towards an active stylus, this is how they should do it. The only real big criticism as far as the pen and the active stylus for me, I know that you'll get roughly 1 to 2 weeks out of this, at least from what I've heard other reviewers saying and other users saying, and even Books' own materials. But even with that said, give us something like the Inkspire pen on the Tab XC that can magnetically charge. And I don't know that that would cost too much more to be able to have that convenience on this device. I think that would make a little bit of that easier to kind of deal with because quite frankly, if I have an EMR device, if one of my pens was to break, I have 3 more in my bag. The problem with this is that if I didn't have the Palma 2, I would have 1 stylus. Yes, I could go and test other active styli, but again, that requires me to replace all of the ones I already have. And I just don't know that I would want to do that. But again, the writing feel is actually excellent. I think it's actually better than the Go 10.3 just because of the combination of the nib they're using on this new pen and screen resistance makes it so much better than the Tab XC because it doesn't have that film. And I found that the Tab XC, if I use the healing shield, does wear on that nib, at least in my experience. And maybe it's because of the way I write, not really sure. But overall, great device. You can see from my reaction in real time that I enjoyed it and I was enjoying using it. And quite frankly, I'm hoping that comes through because I want to be positive towards this device because I really enjoy the 10.3. And I've always said the 10.3, if Supernote didn't exist, that would be my device. The jury's still out. I want to make sure I get through the cool, flashy thing, which is where I'm at right now, because this looks good. It feels good. It's light. It's got the front light built in for those that wanted that. It's running the 4.2 software now. I went ahead and upgraded it. A few little buggy things, but I think that's just Books working out the bugs. And I can see this being a real powerhouse, but I don't want to recommend it yet full-throated because it may not be for you. If you have to do really small superscript or subscript writing for scientific writing, and that's when I'm going to rely on the expertise of people who do that. So I'll be looking for Kit's video when he gets his unit and people who draw. So again, Kit, Vlad, who really, draw on these tablets and where that wobble is more pronounced or where EMR and where active can really cause an issue for somebody. And quite frankly, I think that's why we do what we do, is because we give you what is meaningful to us. As of right now, as of a few hours use of this device, I can tell you note taking on it absolutely acceptable to me. Do I still feel like I would rather write on I don't know about the original 10.3 because of how good the feel is on this. I might prefer this. I still prefer the way the Manta feels, but again, that's because of the combination of the screen and the nib and the pen. And this pen is okay, but it's not a premium feeling pen to me. And I think that's where I'm struggling a little bit. And that's my own mindset. So don't let that deter you. But anyway, thank you all for being here. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for listening to me kind of walk through the process with you and try to give you, as realistic of a view of how this would look, just pulling it out of the box and not really doing anything with it is other than seeing the raw experience. And hopefully that's been helpful. If you can't wait and you think just from what you've seen already, you want to buy this device, please support the channel by using an affiliate link. If you want to wait for more videos, they will be coming, including a head-to-head with the original Go 10.3 Gen 1 and just some different writing tests and different comparisons to the different products. But until next time, thank you all so much for the support of the channel. I appreciate you all, and I look forward to continuing this conversation down in the comments. Until next time, keep on moving forward. I will talk to you soon, and have a great day.